Hi you guys, Random Reviews here. Today I'm reviewing the book The Collected Tales of Nurse Matilda. This is by Christiana Brand and Edward Ardizzone. Christiana Brand is the author and Edward Ardizzone is the illustrator. This book contains all three of the tales of Nurse Matilda, which are Nurse Matilda, Nurse Matilda Goes to Town, and Nurse Matilda Goes to Hospital. This is a really nice leather-bound edition. Not leather-bound, hardcover. Nice hardcover edition. As you can see. It's put out by Bloomsbury. The original price of this hardcover book that I got is $16.95. I paid between $5 and $6 for it. That's not including the shipping of the book, because I ordered from my favorite online website. If you've ever seen the movie Nanny McPhee or the sequel Nanny McPhee Returns, it's based off of these books, these tales. I saw both movies before I read the books. I wasn't aware when I first saw them that they were based on this book, but I decided to get it in and read it because I loved the movies. I was kind of shocked when I read them. The first one I really loved. The second one took me a little longer to read, and the third one took me even longer to read. I wouldn't recommend reading them back to back. I think there's a couple years between each book's being published, but the storyline is basically the same for all three books. The only difference is the setting where the story takes place is different. You see a lot of the same characters, you see a lot of the same phrases being used, and you also see a lot of the same basically the same plot taking place. So I definitely wouldn't recommend reading them back to back. I think that was my mistake when reading it. I was under the impression that it would be the same as in the movies. Nanny McPhee follows the Brown family, and Nanny McPhee Returns follows the Green family. So I was thinking, oh, it's going to follow different families, so I started reading them back to back, but it follows the Brown family throughout all three books. The children in this book are extremely, terribly, terribly naughty. It even says it right here on this front part of it. They're terribly, terribly naughty. So, that's one thing with the book. It's nice. It's nice big print for kids who are maybe just starting to read. And there's also the illustrations in the book. For what I paid for this book, it was a really good deal. It's really nicely bound. I wouldn't recommend reading this with 5-year-olds. I personally wouldn't let little kids read this book. Anybody under the age of 10, I don't think I'd let them read this book, just because it gives a lot of bad ideas for kids to misbehave. On the back it actually has Emma Thompson wrote, full of such inventive naughtiness, it may be better to keep these away from your children. So, I don't know. I think if I ever had a child and I was going to read this with them, I think I'd probably discuss that what they were doing was wrong. Because it seems like until Nurse Matilda comes, the children basically get away with absolutely everything. One thing with Nurse Matilda, it's kind of like the children start to see the consequences of their actions right away, which they probably hadn't been seeing. So that's a good point to the tales. But the end of the third book does leave you a little, it's more of an empty ending, just because you've seen that ending 2 other times, and then you've seen that the beginning of 2 other stories start the same way with them being naughty. So it's kind of an empty ending for me. But from what I read, it kind of reminds me of Mary Poppins, but don't hold that against me because I've never read Mary Poppins. Maybe I should pick up one of the books and read. But that is my review of Nurse Matilda. If any of you have read Nurse Matilda, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you guys have any questions or you want any other information, just leave a comment down below and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible with that. I hope you like this review, and go and pick up a random book and read. Bye.